Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nick Smith. You know, today it's been on my mind for the last couple of days, and I know it's been on Nick's mind about receiving. Today, we're going to receive an amazing message, and I'm so excited about it. Nick, will you introduce our guest?
I will. And Stephen, tell me if I say your last name right. Sainato?
Yeah, that's close enough.
Yeah, good
It'll
enough.
do it a pinch.
It'll do it a pinch. Stephen is a giant life coach. He actually coached with one of my mentors, Steve Hardison, who's just an incredible human. He's an author. He's a coach. He's a tap dancer. We don't get that very often on the show.
Sweet.
About 9 years ago, Stephen was in the depths of addiction. He struggled like a lot of us do, and with alcoholism and depression. And fortunately woke up and took responsibility for his life and went to rehab and then went back to school. So got a career in law in New York with a major law firm, graduated first in class. Is that correct? In your schooling? Found out it's not for him and eventually jumped out to do coaching full time. Now runs a masterful practice as an author. Just an incredible human. And I love your background. You're the first person that's put up the universe behind you, and I love it.
I had to after seeing the first page of the book.
Yeah.
I was like, usually I set up my camera the other way, and I have my candles and bookshelves and have it set up. But I'm like, today we're going to create the background, and we will create the world of the Giants right here.
That's awesome.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah, I see the book in your background there. How did you come across that book?
Well, I was in Steve Hardison's office a little over a month ago, and it happened to be my birthday. And one of the gifts he gave me was this. He gave me this gift as a present for, and you could see it, gift from Steve Hardison, and I got the signed copy, baby. As a gift for our first child. We don't have children. We plan to start a family in the future, and so it's been a really meaningful gift. And I connected to you to thank you for writing this. Shortly thereafter, we set this up, and I thought it would be magnificent to read it the morning of this call. So I read it this morning, cried several times, highlighted many lines, and found it to be incredibly impactful. And I think it's going to really open up an entire world of possibility for the next generation.
That's amazing. Thank you. Now I'm getting ready to cry. You know that.
Let's do it.
This will be just a bunch of men just teary-eyed the whole time. I love it. Can we dive into your story? Can we go back in time a little bit and go through your experience? And usually we'll talk with either an awakening, and it looks like you've had multiple, or we'll go back in your history to your childhood and look at what it was like growing up. And I think we do that just to show people, look, no matter your background, you can become a giant. And where would you prefer to start? Do you want to start with one of your awakenings, or do you want to start with your childhood?
Let's start with childhood.
Okay. What was that like?
Yeah. So from childhood, I want to begin there because I want to acknowledge my family and the giant thoughts I received from them at a very young age. My mom, believer in miracles, she imparted that onto me. I have a picture that she gave to me with a saying on it that says, expect miracles. And that's a giant thought. And I've come to believe in miracles and possibility from her. And she believed in me no matter what it was that I was doing. I mean, as a young boy who was the only boy in the dance school, that could have been tough for a lot of kids. But it wasn't, because I had this awesome support and love and belief in me. And I was told how great I was and how much I could do with it. And it empowered me. It excited me. It inspired me. From my dad, I learned how to be straight with people. Stern. He's really powerful in that respect. My brother Nick, incredibly strong. He also spoke life into me.
Nick's a good name.
Yeah, I like that name.
Yeah, it is. My father's a Nick too, by the way.
Oh. Really? Victory of the people. That's what that name means. Victory of the people.
Hey, there you go.
Does it? Yeah, definitely a victorious name. I learned from them. I learned from my sister, who's incredibly kind, loving kindness. I learned from my oldest brother, Bill, to be incredibly clever, and the power of reading. Readers are leaders. So I got to experience a lot of giant thoughts and ways of being from childhood that I've taken with me to this very day.
So you grew up in a giant family. I mean, essentially.
Yeah, I grew up in a giant family. We had a dancing school in our home. So love and music and dance permeated the entire home growing up, and it was magnificent.
So I've got to ask you on that. Coming from a giant family, how did you go into depression and alcoholism?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I do obviously a lot of deep work in my profession. And the further I get to grow and the further I go, the further I get to help others do the same. And so I've done a lot of inner work here. And what I've discovered is that when I was a kid, I was poked fun at for having these size ears. They were the same size when I was a kid.
Bro,
And
I got some ears, bro.
oh,
You guys are ear brothers.
Yeah,
we're ear brothers. That's so awesome.
Oh yeah, that's why I
that
wear these. I
experience-
just hide them up. You know, just kind of tuck them back in, pin them to the side here.
That's great. We can laugh now. As a kid, though,
At
it
the
was,
time, yeah, as a kid, you're like, ooh.
it caused me to experience shame, and that's a very painful and powerful emotion. And with that, I began to have thoughts, small thoughts, to keep it in line with the book. I began to think something was wrong with me, and I was broken, and I grew self-conscious, and that started to grow in me. And as I got older, that grew larger and larger, and certain other experiences in life contributed to that. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I think many people can relate to when I say I suffered in silence. I kept it to me. I didn't know about the value of sharing with others in a safe space what was really going on. I was afraid to be perceived as weak or small. Yeah, so that began to contribute to it. Would you like me to go on, or do you have a question to ask?
No. Let's keep going there, because I think there's probably a lot of people watching this that can relate to that. You know, holding it in, that right there probably leads to more addiction than anything else. I don't know if you've seen the Rat Park experiment. We've talked about that in the show before, but it was an experiment where they got the rats hooked on heroin because they isolated them, and the only good thing in their cage was that heroin. So that's what they went for, and many of them died. But they took those same rats and they created a park, and they put the heroin in the park, and it was available to them. But because they had that social connection, not one of them went for the heroin. And so, you know, just hearing that is, a lot of people suffer in silence. They don't want others to know. I think it's a giant thing right there, is to be able to step out of that. But keep going.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And what else contributed to that was perfectionism. I wanted to maintain this perception of perfection and this like strong person who had it all together, and I pretended like I did. And there was no way I was going to share what was really going on, because that would mean, you know, perhaps social evaluation in a way that was out of alignment with my view of perfection. So that grew and grew and grew, and it manifested in different ways. In school, I'd be this good kid. I'd sit up at my desk like this, and then I'd go home with friends, and we'd wreak havoc in the neighborhood and break windows and cause destruction. And that was a way of dealing with my emotional anguish. Once I discovered alcohol, it was like, boom, I got a solution here to deal with my emotional pain. There were certain events in my life, breakups, what have you, that combined to create an emotional experience that many of us have probably felt. It's like a sickness in our stomach. It's like shame and fear and worry all in one. It can be so potent and so intense. And many of us don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with it. And I was too afraid to share. So I went right for vodka. And that it actually like worked. It numbed it, and I could get back to doing whatever I was doing. that was meant when I created a very self-destructive solution to my problems, to life's problems.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got to ask you along those lines. So in the book, I talk about the fear. So they're in the forest and they feel fear. You know, Rip feels fear. He asks the giant, "Do you feel fear?" And he says, "Yeah, I feel that." And even today, I still feel those feelings that you're talking about. They're still present for me, but I'm finding other ways to work with them. You know, instead of acting on them with alcohol or drugs or things like that, I move it in another direction. But they're still present. Is that the case for you?
Yes, it is. I'm so glad you asked that question, because one of the things I found really powerful about your book is when you talk about how giants see opportunity, and there is also a giant question about what's possible. And rather than feeling those feelings and then going and like, get it off me, I gotta numb it and drink something, smoke something, or sniff something, or do something destructive, I can actually be with it and get really curious and look for the opportunity in it. And when that happens is when I have caused the most life-altering breakthroughs in thinking and being. They have been the biggest gifts in my life now that I've created this way of seeing it as an opportunity, and I can lean into questions like, what's possible here? How can I grow through this? What's this teaching me?
Wow. Man, you know what? You're hitting on so many amazing things that we talk about all the time. We have these, like, daily. We have these little videos and we talk about these things. And you're just like, wham, 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 just hitting them all. It's just, hey, we might not need to do the videos anymore. We'll just have Steven.
Yeah,
Go back and listen to Steven's. You know, we're done. We're good.
We've been talking this week about appreciation. And acceptance is one of the first things that you've got to do with your life. Is if you can accept your life the way it is, then you can start to change it. But until we accept it, we resist it. We don't want it to be what it is. But once we accept it, then it's the next step of appreciating it. And here's a twist on that word appreciation. Appreciation means to increase in value. And so when you can take a situation and look for the value in that situation and increase the value of that situation, now you no longer need to numb it. Now it's about, how can I take this and add value to it for my life? Instead of going in the direction of, this is horrible, I don't want this. Let's depreciate this. Let's go down into drugs and alcohol or whatever I can find to numb this. Sex for some people, you know. How can I appreciate this and add value to this situation so that I can learn from it? What do you hear as you hear that? Does that align for you, or is that?
Yeah, that resonates so well with me. And when we accept it, when we take on being responsible, we can do something about it. And it serves us and everyone in our world. I say that one of the greatest contributions we can make to humanity is working on ourselves. And through my experience in recovery and overcoming depression and addiction and alcoholism and immense fear, those are my greatest assets now. Those are what make me so valuable, especially as a life coach.
This is cool, because you don't have to get rid of these, right? It's not a matter of getting rid of these to be great. It's like, I'm including them because I wouldn't be where I am today without them.
Yeah, all the junk, all the things that you normally think of as garbage and crap and hard and darkness or whatever, all you flipped that and made it an asset. That's awesome. That is awesome. That is the best thing ever.
Why do we hang on to assets? Is because they have value.
Yeah.
And so when you increase the value of the situation and you appreciate it, it becomes an asset. And we hang on to assets because they have value. And so, I mean, I think it just, as a mirror of life, you know, we hang on to things that are valuable to us, but if we don't see the value, it's hard to do that.
Yeah. And you know what's really powerful is we can create seeing it as an asset versus having a seeing of it as a drainer or something that depreciates. Like seeing recovery, for a long time, I was ashamed about it. I wouldn't even talk about it. It took me 6 years to open up about it. And now I see it in a whole new perspective and light that, hold on, this is actually what makes me so valuable. This is what has appreciated me to be with anyone through anything and serve deeply and profoundly that only I can. And that is a gift.
Yeah.
In the book, so they, like there's a new perspective that's formed. I don't know if you can see that, but Rit hops on the shoulder of a giant, and that what you just said just brought a whole new perspective to me. Is that seeing not just what your potential is in the future, but also seeing your past and all the hard things you've gone through as an asset, and looking at everything in a whole new perspective, not just your future, not just your journey that you're going to go through, or that the possibilities, but looking at everything in a whole different light. To me, is just that a light bulb just clicked, and I find a new appreciation in all the hard things.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I love that.
Steve
I saw,
Hardison talked about that the other day. He said, find the beauty in everything. Find the beauty.
Yeah, he did. I saw that too. You know what's really cool, and it didn't hit me until this week. This is the Sunday 9 years ago when I wrecked my car.
Are you kidding me?
This is the very Sunday.
Wow.
And I could see that now as one of the most beautiful nights of my life. One of the biggest blessings in disguise ever.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to get off track a little bit. Seeing it as the greatest blessing of our lives, right? So I went through a divorce last year, October. Didn't feel like the greatest thing in the world when it was happening, but I look back and I think, man, none of this would be where it is today had that not occurred. And if you talk about your car accident as the greatest night, I mean, can you go into that? Like, what occurred and what did you learn?
Yeah. So to close the gap a little bit from where I left off sharing about my journey, that self-destruction I created grew and grew and grew. And drugs came in, and harder drugs came in, and I eventually created my own hell where I didn't really care to do anything. I lost all motivation, all zest, and I didn't care really if I woke up. I had a spiritual awakening that helped to stop the drugs. So I didn't think I had a drinking problem. So I kept chasing that feeling, that euphoria I experienced with drugs, with alcohol. So as you can imagine, my drinking got more and more and more intense, and I began to black out and black out and black out until this Sunday, 9 years ago. I went out with friends. I volunteered to drive, thinking I honestly wouldn't drink that night. I drank. I blacked out, and I drove home, and I was flying, and I bashed into a tree and completely wrecked my car. And I woke up with that same similar emotional pain, remorse, shame, embarrassment, depressed, lost. What am I going to do? How did I get here? What are people going to think about me? And it was a conversation with my brother, Nick, that helped me create that view, that perspective, to see the beauty and the blessing of it. Conversations are so powerful. He told me, he said, I'm a mess. I'm crying. We're at my grandmother's downstairs where I was living at the time. We're at the table, and he's speaking life into me. And he says, Steve, you gotta stop drinking, and you gotta make last night the best thing that's ever happened to you. You just got the smack of God, and you gotta make last night the best thing that's ever happened to you. And that moment, those words, when he spoke them to me, hit me so hard that I felt peace. I actually felt peace, relief, and a sense of inspiration. Like, okay, that's a possibility, and I'm going to do it. And that's when I called up my friend, and I asked if I could tag along with him to a 12-step meeting, which is what I did. And that began my path of recovery and helped me step onto a path where I get to experience freedom, peace, joy, gratitude, love in a way I could not have ever imagined. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here right now if that didn't happen.
Man, Brene Brown is coming to mind. She talks about shame and how a lot of times shame is us not wanting to tell that story, not wanting others to see it. And, that event easily could have turned into a shame cycle where you go back to where you were. But to change that perspective, to value it and see it as the best thing that has ever happened in your life, the best event, just totally shifts the way you approach the world.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that was always available to you. It's not like that wasn't a possibility. It was always available to you, but it took an event like that for you to wake up. Would you agree with that?
100%. I would also agree with the word you used, choice, because there was a fork there. I could have allowed that to be the blow that crushed me into deeper depression, or I could have chosen to rise up. And I saw that you mentioned that in the book too, how being a giant, it's a choice. It's a daily choice to think giant thoughts, to dream giant dreams, and to do what giants do. It's a choice.
I love that. It gets me giddy.
Okay, here we go. Well, it gets me giddy, and then also like, here come the waterworks, folks.
I feel like, I don't know. It's amazing to see the impact that this story has. It's not anything new. The story is just describing the journey that all of us go through. That's really all it is it describes what it takes to become a giant. And these are things that we've learned from mentors and powerful people. They're things that we learn on our own too. Being a giant, sometimes you don't have a mentor. Sometimes you are on your own and you still got to take those giant steps every day. And it's still a choice. And, just hearing that, just going through the journey that you went through to wake up. And that was one awakening. There's another one that came from law school that I'd imagine when you went into coaching. And so I'm curious about that. So you woke up from that life of hating your life to appreciating it. And then you go to law school, you graduate first in class, and you work for a huge firm out of New York. So tell me about that story.
Yeah. So thank you for asking. One of the most powerful parts of that story for me, the most transformative experiences of my life, was that leading up to law school and into the first year, I was like in and out of court because of the trouble I had gotten in from the car accident. I had a conversation with the lawyer I hired. Again, the power of conversations, why I love coaching so much. Yeah. He inspired me to apply to law school, which had been my dream in college. That was my plan, go to law school. I didn't intend to go into the hell that I went into. So I went and signed up for the law school admission test, took the test. I applied to where I wanted to go, which at the time was Rutgers. It was near home, great tuition, good school. They put me on the wait list and ultimately rejected me. The following year, I applied again and got in. And now I'm just very excited. I feel really proud of myself. I'm sober for a little while now. I got some time together. I'm feeling good about myself. And I'm also really terrified. Really terrified. Reading and writing courses were not my strength. And when it came to, they were called the Iowa tests where I grew up, the standardized tests that were given in the schools, I would often bomb those sections and sometimes skip them completely because it was like, why even bother? So I was very excited and proud of myself, and also really scared and questioned whether I could do this. I didn't have a strong belief in me that I could do it. And I didn't have that level of commitment that would push me to cultivate the courage to dive in with everything I've got. So I experienced an awakening in a way that you can't even predict. So at the time, I'm bartending still in sobriety because it was my main source of income. I meet a judge while bartending. We connect. Turns out he went to Rutgers. He invites me to his chambers to just chat and talk. And he's speaking to me, and I said to him in the middle of our conversation, and when I say God, by the way, I mean the God of my understanding. I respect and honor all belief systems, including if you don't have one.
Sure.
So I stopped him and I said, Judge, I don't know if you're a believer, but I swear it's like God's talking right through you. This is what I've been praying to hear. And he gets up and he tells me how he prays before he sits on the bench, and then we really connect. He invites me to his church, which happens to be, the service happens to be on the day. It was another Sunday before classes began. He talks about his life, and I get to hear this tale of someone overcoming extraordinary challenges. And I feel this sense of inspiration like I had never, ever experienced in my life. It was like someone just ignited my soul. And I wanted to go in this and do it for me. For all the years, I I felt like I had wasted, and I wanted to do it for everyone who was in recovery or going through a really tough time to prove what was possible. And so I maintained that mindset. I began to believe in me, and I carried that energy with me. And one of the most important factors that allowed me to sustain that level of empowerment and inspiration was to fill my mind with what you might call giant content. Every morning during my commute to law school, I listened to some of the most motivational and inspirational speakers I could find on YouTube. And it lit me up, and it began to shift how I thought about me. I began to believe in me. And rather than think small thoughts, I began to think giant thoughts. Rather than think, how can I just survive law school without failing? I began to think, how can I be number one? And that's how I began to show up. And I was the first one at the library, just about every day for 3 years. I would study so hard. When people would go home and party on weekends is when I would turn it up. I don't think there was a day I didn't study when the semester was on. I was also smart and took some time off, but that's how I showed up, and I renewed that commitment every single day for 3 years and graduated valedictorian in my class.
Wow. See that you hit on a term there. I renewed that commitment every day. I got to write that down. Because we do a giant intention circle every day. And can you speak about the power of that intention, renewing that commitment?
Yeah. I mean, just think about, like, in my life, there have been times when I felt so excited and inspired and empowered to do something, and then that fizzles, gone. It's like, how does that happen? So I got to realize, okay, I got to renew this. This is something I got to create daily. And so by incorporating the morning routine at that time that worked really well for me, and something I strongly advocate for everyone to create a morning routine that works well for them, it helped me renew that commitment and to think about why I was doing what I was doing. And it helped me to continue showing up, how I was showing up in my mind as the top, as the best.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Quick is that it's interesting to see every giant that pops on here that we talk to, and the things that they have in common, because their growth patterns are very similar. Their stories are different. Their pathways to get there are usually different, but there's so many commonalities. The morning routines, the positive in, the positive out. It's just incredible to see. Sorry, Nick.
You're good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the only difference is what you put into your brain. Einstein's brain. I talk about this a lot. Einstein's brain he had the same number of neurons as you and me. The difference was that he developed his hippocampi and his neocortex, which is something any of us could do. But the way he did that is he put in content, like ridiculous amounts of content. And then when it came to manipulating that to create, he had a level of creation that was beyond the normal. But it wasn't because he was beyond normal. It was just he put in that giant content in such a way. And I picture almost a bingo wheel, right? You put all the bingo balls in there and you spin it up and one pops out. The bingo balls in that wheel are the content that you put into your brain. And when you go to create and you have that to draw from, you have more options to draw from. And so when you make that commitment to load your mind full of giant content, it will change your life. It'll change your perspective. It'll change your creations. But you can do anything. You could do what Einstein did.
Yeah.
He was a terrible insurance salesman. He was horrible. And people could have said, well, he's dumb because he didn't know how to do insurance. But here's a guy that was terrible at insurance that found his passion, filled himself with the content that he wanted to learn about, recommitted daily, and came up with the theory of relativity. So I can't imagine anybody calling him dumb now. He's kind of the beacon of intelligence.
Yeah, man.
What does that bring?
It reminds me of that parable about the two wolves in the mind.
Okay.
You've heard that parable before? There's two wolves in our mind. It's
I've got it on my arm.
He's tattooed it to his arm.
Oh my God. Wow. That's
You're blowing my
amazing.
mind right now.
It brings up that, and it brings up a line that I remember hearing a pastor say one time.
Will you share the parable, though?
Yes. Yeah. So the first thing it brings up is the parable about the two wolves in our mind. And I don't know verbatim. This is how I experienced it. There's one wolf that's fear and small and doubtful and shrinks and is self-conscious. And the other wolf is faith and belief and joy and empowerment and inspiration and love. And the grandfather, Cherokee Chief, is telling his grandson about these two wolves in the mind, and the grandson is, I think about this, it makes me laugh because I remember writing about this in one of my emails, and I put my own twist on it, and I said the grandson says, holy cow, or holy whatever, grandpa, there's two wolves in my mind? What the heck? This is nuts. And the grandfather said, yeah, there's two wolves in your mind. And then it gets a little more serious. And the grandson says, well, which one wins? And he says, the one you feed. Which reminds me of the quote I heard by the pastor who said, we create what we consume. And when we consume and are intentional about the content we infuse into our mind, we can actually create giant thoughts, which can be life-altering.
Powerful. The beauty of the two wolves is you're going to have times where you feed that negative. Even in your giant journey, it's still going to come up. And that negative helps you to see the positive even stronger. Some people say that the brightest stars shine on the darkest nights. And it's that contrast. People want to get rid of their darkness. They want to get rid of that dark wolf and not feed it at all. But without that darkness, how could you shine as brightly as you're capable of? I think that they balance out. It's that equilibrium, that give and take, that positive and negative that the universe is designed on. And so, but the idea of you create what you consume, man, that's powerful, because that's so true. If you're putting giant information into your brain, then your creations are going to come out pretty giant. Yeah. So what do you consume?
What am I consuming?
Yeah. Well, I say it as a rhetorical, but yeah.
Yeah.
But if you want to answer it, man, take a shot at it.
Take it.
Oh. It is a good rhetorical question. Yeah, I'm intentional about the content I consume. Every morning I'm with really powerful spiritual text, either The Way of Mastery or something similar. And I love to listen to motivational and educational content while I work out. I find that to be like an insanely powerful combination that puts me in like this immense ultimate state of being. And I read my declarations to create my view of who I am.
Okay, can you talk about that? Les Patterson, who's one of our viewers on here, does the same thing. He has a declaration. And can you share that? Are you open to sharing that? Your declaration?
My declaration? Yeah. Sure. I just updated it 2 nights ago. So here it comes. I am pure love. I am the God within. I am whole, complete, and deeply grateful for my life. I am that I see and listen through beauty, opportunity, and possibility. I am that I see God in everyone and everything because God is in my mind and heart. I am that no one is worthy of my judgment and that everyone is worthy of my love. I am full faith and total trust. I am divine intuition, one with the God of my understanding, and moved by spirit. I am powerful, loving, and fearless. I am that I fear nothing, not even fear itself. I am that I never give up and that I never stop giving back. Abundance is my birthright. I am wealth and wisdom. I am happy, peaceful, humble, and kind. I am unconditional love. I am that I live in the spirit of forgiveness and that I free others to be. I am that I rise above the urge to shrink and please others. I am a master and a student. I am lightness, laughter, and fun. I am strong, handsome, healthy, confident, and jacked. I am commitment, leadership, and integrity. I am genuine, honest, and sincere. I am my word. I am that I embrace me, I love me, I free me to be me, I bless me, and I take great care of me. I am loving permission to make mistakes and grow through everything. I am that life is simple and I create my deepest desires with ease and the help of God's grace. I am clear. I am focused. I know exactly who I am and exactly what I want. I am that I love and believe in you. I am that I see your humanity and your divinity. I get you. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. I am profound presence, deep listening, healing, and comfort. I am empathy and deep compassion. I am that I cause life-altering shifts in thinking and being. I am the most loving, intuitive, effective, brilliant, powerful, and committed coach in the world. I am that I create champions of life. I am profound service, impeccable standing, and professionalism. I am miracles and mastery. I am dreams come true. I am total life satisfaction. I am pure bliss and massive success. I am a diamond. I am sharp, decisive, creative, clever, brilliant, efficient, and effective. I am deeply in love with my stunning, brilliant, enlightened, supportive, and loving wife and soulmate, Kylie. I am aligned. I am blessed. I am free. I am home.
Man, that's powerful. Holy cow. I don't have one. I don't have a declaration statement. And hearing you read that out, I need a declaration. That is incredible.
Yeah. It's beyond words. It's life-changing.
So to declare it is to state it clearly to the world, to the universe. This is who I am, and this is what I stand for, and this is what I'm creating in my universe. And to declare it is different from wanting it. To want it is to be without it. And yeah, it would be nice to have that, right? A lot of people say that, but to declare it is I'm claiming it.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking it into being.
I just started putting mine together, and so I'm going to have to go back and listen to yours a couple hundred times, because that was a lot of I ams, but it's true. You are every bit of that, and you deserve every single bit of that. You're worthy enough. You have everything right inside of you, coming from a heart space, getting out of the mind space. And that's usually what holds us back is here, that mind space, and changing it from a space of love. That you have everything inside of you to be that giant, to be everything that you are meant to be. And I believed you as you're saying that. I 100% believed you. And I know that everything that you said is happening, and that you are being right now. It's amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah. Whew, thank you, man. I have chills, and that just feels so good to receive that acknowledgement. Thank you so much.
I love you saying that, to receive that acknowledgement, to receive the abundance that is your birthright, to look at the universe in the background on your screen, and to think of the scale of the universe, and that there is no limit to the giantness that a person can have, that there can be giants among giants. There can be giants in scale that we can't even imagine. And your declaration is one of those ways to become a giant among giants. Already a giant, but you're creating a world that is beyond just giant. You know what I mean? It's
man.
Bringing it into the present. What comes up as you hear that?
What came up first was the power of acknowledgement, and how we're a little bit funny as humans when it comes to acknowledgement. We can often invalidate them or dodge them or bounce them right back, when there's actually a golden opportunity when an acknowledgement is present to receive it, to be with it, and have that contribute to my self creation. Like, to hear you say you believe that bolsters my belief in me. And I know that, and I can be with that. At the end of every one of my coaching sessions, we finish with acknowledgement, and I invite whomever I'm coaching to acknowledge themselves, because how often do we stop and give ourselves some love? And it represents so much. It's building a dialogue in the mind that's loving and empowering and encouraging, and it transforms the relationship we had with ourselves.
Does it
So
come
when you-
off like I think sometimes people think that like acknowledging it in that way or stating those things about yourself comes off as like bragging or, you know, some sort of negative thing, right? Like that's almost the feeling. And so I think in a society we don't do that when we really need to be like believing in ourselves and talking that way. It's almost the opposite. I don't know. We need to be outside, you know, like, you know, like, hey, I'm a giant, you know, like to your neighbors, like bragging in that way, like saying it that way. But I am a giant. There's a whole different, you know, tone when you're saying it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, I know exactly what you mean. I'm so glad you brought that up, because there is such a subtle yet powerful distinction. It's not coming from a place of arrogance or being braggadocious. It's coming from a place of being connected to who we are, our authentic power. And it also comes from love. And I am that I free others to be. I get that some people will perceive that in a way that might be will be in a way out of alignment with how I'm expressing it. And I'm okay with that. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid for someone to judge or say whatever they say or see me however they see me. I know the place it's coming from, and that's what matters to me most.
I had to look up the word acknowledge, and so I pulled up the etymology on it. I'm always curious about where these words come from, and it says that it's to know something and to admit it. And I think so often that we are unwilling to admit that we know a thing. And here you are declaring it powerfully. Not only do I know it, but I'm going to admit it and declare it powerfully to the universe that this is who I am. This is who I am going to be in this world. This is who I am being, not going to be. This is who I am being in the present. And so to know it and to admit it, and I love words, braggadocious, you know, it's another big word. It's not that. It's not that. It's coming from a space of just knowing and a space of declaring.
Yes. Yeah. And gratitude too. There's a video I share with my clients of Snoop Dogg thanking himself. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a video of Snoop Dogg. You got to check it out. Just type in like Snoop Dogg thanking himself, and it should come up. If you can't find it, let me know. And he's receiving an award. I think his prints were just imprinted in LA on that famous sidewalk. And he's giving his speech, and he says, I just want to thank me. I want to thank me for never giving up. I want to thank me for believing in me.
Wow.
And he goes on, and it's so powerful. And that's it. That's acknowledgement right there.
Yeah, thank yourself. What a powerful tool right there. Thank yourself. You're doing the work. I'm not doing the work. Yeah. I get to do my own work. But man, you are the ones showing up. You are the ones showing up for your life. Anybody that's watching this, and we've had a lot of interaction. This is amazing from the audience here. You have that within you. Admit to yourself that you know things about you. Admit to yourself that you're the one creating the change in your life. That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. And it gets me present to want to thank me for taking responsibility for my life, for being intentional about the creation of my life. Thank me for working on myself. Thank me for believing in myself, even though when it was so hard sometimes. Thank me for keeping it moving, even when I was so afraid that I would cry. And thank me for believing in what I knew was possible in my heart, creating a business where I get to make a massive and meaningful difference in people's lives.
Yeah, you're like describing the journey, the giant's journey in detail with your life, from the waking up as a small to looking up at your potential, to getting out on a path that's unknown, to finding mentors, to doing the work and having giant dreams, to being afraid,
realizing nobody's going to rescue you, you know, like, but you, you know,
and even the desire to become a giant among giants and help others. I mean, all the way through the story, you're living every aspect of the story. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And I love the story so much. I told you after I read it this morning, I ordered 7 more copies because I can't wait to share it with the people who just had a baby or have young children or anyone really. It's for everyone. I mean, I think it can resonate with everyone at every age, and it's such an extraordinary book. Thank you for creating it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for saying that and buying more copies. I mean, I think that's amazing. And we received that. It's cool to see it, you know, to come in that way, and you want to share that message, and I accept that and receive that, and Ryan too. And it's just, you know, this creation is going out, and our hope is to change people one at a time if we can. And it's amazing how many adults there are that resonate with this message, that are understanding that they still have potential. That you could be 50 years old, 60 years old, 80 years old, and still get on the Giant's journey and make a change in your life.
Right. And that's possibility right there.
Yeah. There is no limit. So I've got to ask you about, you know, the pathway and some of your favorite routines, and we'll go into that in a minute. We talked about some of those. Let's circle my thoughts here a minute. I think what I want to know is if you were to go back in time and you were able to meet with yourself and give yourself some wisdom at any age, you can choose it at a younger age or before your addictions or after, at any point, what would you say to yourself? What piece of wisdom would you impart?
What a powerful question. What a giant question. What comes to mind immediately was an insight I realized during my reflection last year. And it was my wife to help me realize this. And it was that all the worrying I did wasn't necessary. I could have enjoyed the journey. I could have had faith. I could have had more fun. And it's all okay because I get to learn from it. So I would go back to my younger self and say, it's going to be all good. Believe that. And the worrying isn't necessary. You don't have to spend so much time worrying about what will happen and what won't happen. Be with what is, love what is, and enjoy the journey as much as you possibly can. And keep thinking big.
What's funny is when I asked that question in the past, I would ask it as advice. What advice would you give? What would you change? Most people say they wouldn't change a thing. But things like what you just said, that the worry is unnecessary, to just know that it's going to be okay, is such a common theme throughout for most giants. Is, hey, it's going to work out. Just keep showing up, keep being intentional, keep renewing your agreement every day. And it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's it. And that's a created way of thinking, a created giant way of thinking, rather than leaning into those questions like, what if this happened? What if this doesn't happen? Blah, 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 blah. These questions that birth a whole realm of fear-based thought. Shifting out of that and into questions like, it's going to work out. What's possible? What if this goes bigger than I could even imagine?
Yeah,
what if
like
this save someone's life? Like, that to me is giant thinking.
That's amazing. Ryan, I sent you a prayer this morning. What did it say? You have that? And I know it, but and we've been talking about this fear-based thinking.
So Nick sent me, and it said, please heal my fear-based thoughts. Yesterday we went to lunch. Jeez, it all merges together. We went to lunch, Nick and I too, and we talked about coming from the heart, you know, instead of the mind, instead of the fear-based. This whole week we've been talking about receiving and growing, and everything that you've been talking about has lined up just like dominoes perfectly. Lori, and then Lori's comment, you know, sometimes we think, oh, my giant journey is just beginning, it's just starting. Where the truth is really, you know, it started at birth. You know, your giant journey, you've been building this whole time to get to where you needed to be, to maybe wake up and realize your journey, or your potential. But you've been a growing giant this whole time. It's always been inside of you. That you have everything you need right inside. And
I
and
have a
there's
thought.
giants of different size too. You spiral up, and you start realizing that consciousness, there's different levels of consciousness. And as you gain a little, you'll start seeing a new level of consciousness. You gain a level, you start seeing a new level of consciousness. I mean, we look at Steve Hardison, right? A powerful, amazing giant like this just the giant of giants. But even him, he's hit a new level of consciousness and can see maybe higher than what we can see. And then he reaches back and says, "Hey, be blessed. I love you. Come up here, see what I see." And he's following other giants as well.
Lori, I've got a point here too on a tree. You think of a tree, we all see the surface. We see the trunk and the branches above, but rarely do we see the roots that laid the foundation for that tree to become what it is on the surface. And at 59, you might be breaking the surface, but look at the roots that got you to that point where you could break the surface. Look at the foundation, Stephen, in your life, where that addiction was part of the roots of your process, part of that breaking through so that you could become the tree and the creation that you are today.
Sometimes a purpose, can die too. Nick and I talked about this yesterday as well, where a tree that dies is still evidence that there was energy that flowed into that. And then choosing to see like, okay, well, maybe that journey or that path didn't work the way that we thought it would or whatnot, but there's still energy, there's still creation there. And what's the beauty in that? Like all the hard things that you went through, there was energy that was put towards that. Well, how can I choose to view that? We talked about that, a little bit before. Steve Hardison has a dead tree in his front yard. He could have had it removed and said, "Hey, this thing's ugly. This thing's terrible. This thing was, what an eyesore." Nope. That dude lacquered it up and made it into some beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
Right. And chose to see it as something different. Other people would drive by and say, "What? Steve Hardison has a dead tree. He put lacquer all over it. What is he doing? It doesn't have any leaves on it. It looks terrible." Nope. Steve Hardison made it into a piece of art, and then gave it gratitude for being a part of his existence. And we need to do the same thing, is look back at our past, the 59 years, right, Lori, of stuff, and go, you know what? How do I choose to see that? That set me up for the next step in life, for spiraling up to being the next level. And you're going to get there, Lori. I know it. She's writing a book and doing all kinds of great things, and she's showing up. You're showing up in a big way. Stephen, you're showing up in a big way too, brother.
All right. Thank you, brother. And way to go, Lori. I love it. I love it.
So how do people... Yeah, go ahead.
What I'm hearing is like a quote. Just I gotta share it. It's like a small is just a giant in disguise, building the whole way through, and it's all gifts. It's all appreciating us to the level of giant. I love that. Brilliant. What were you gonna ask, Nick?
Well, just that. How do people find you? How do they follow you? How do they support you? You've got a book that just came out. You do coaching. So how do we put people in touch with you?
I'm most active on Instagram. Thank you. I see that on the ticker. That's so cool, by the way.
On the bottom,
Steven Sainato. Yeah, that's my Instagram account. I'm most active there. I share and post all the time. And the book I wrote. So after I left the law and transitioned into coaching, it was a heck of a journey. And through it, I got to understand how to conquer a professional transition. And that's the name of the book, 5 Guideposts to Conquer Professional Transition. It's a really concise, short, impactful read, available on Amazon.
Okay. And that's something that they can access today?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I could go on. It's already been an hour. You believe that?
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
I was wondering where we were on time. I feel like we could talk probably all day.
We could. I know we could. And hopefully we'll continue sharing as we go. If you were to give some advice to some of the viewers here, just one piece of wisdom that you would share with them, what would you say?
I would say you're at where you're at. Embrace and love your journey. You're one in about 8 billion people. You're special. You matter. You make a difference. And we're all going exactly where we're supposed to be going. Faith, commitment, love, and support. We can all do it. We can all be giants, and we can support each other as we do.
Beautiful.
Ryan, do you have any other thoughts?
I'm receiving this message. There's a giant too, Lamar Norwood. The beauty about all of this is that we can support each other. There's enough to support a Diana, to support an Amy, to support a Lori, to support a Stephen, like to lift each other up, to encourage them and to promote them. There's enough. And that's what we need. We need to find, there's so many giants out there that our mission is to gather giants, bring them in, and then all of us work together to then turn around and bring more giants and lift them up to their giant potential. We need it. We need it so much in this world. People could look at all the negativity. 2020 was a very interesting year. My perspective was different. Nick's perspective was different. I imagine yours was different. All these things were happening around us. We didn't let it happen to us. We didn't let the circumstance dictate how we showed up. We pushed through. We want others to see that same thing, that look, there's a giant inside of you. You are a giant. That's the idiom of it all. I don't know even the right English word for it. It's you're already a giant.
That's it.
Let's help you wake up and see your giant potential, and you're doing it, my man. So thanks for being on the show, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
We definitely would love to have you, like, in the future. If you want to, we have what's called the Tribe of Giants. If you like the messages that you've seen here, if you like what you've heard from Stephen, join the Tribe of Giants, because it's a group of 600 plus people and growing quickly. That we didn't start that long ago. Just a few months ago, this thing's been growing like crazy.
Either. They're highly engaged people that are pursuing their highest potential. I haven't seen a Facebook group with this kind of interaction in a long time, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. I am in.
So, man, you're getting a lot of accolades here.
Yep.
This is so wonderful. Thank you all. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Ginger, if you can see it on the bottom there,
scrolling across there. So write it down quick.
That's Stephen Sainato. And then if you have questions or comments, continue posting after the show. We'll go back and engage with those, and share this with friends and family that you think might benefit. Make sure that you subscribe on somewhere over here. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube on the Tribe. Make sure you go get a copy of the book if you haven't done that already.
Here it is. Thank you.
Or 7, like Stephen.
Yeah. 1 or 7.
Yeah.
There's no limit.
First order.
Yeah, there's no limit. Cool. Well, thank you for being on the show. To our viewers, thank you for participating. We appreciate your comments and thoughts and support. It's amazing. And we hope you go out and make it a giant day. Thanks for being a part of this. We'll see you on the next episode.